time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, he was born in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Brooklyn, in New York, and he is now in the greater Hazleton area. His name, well, he's born Apache Gonzalez, I think, and he is now known as Apache Prinze. Am I correct?
Yes.
I said that correct.
Yeah.
Well, Apache Prinze, he is a musician, he is an actor, and he's thinking of doing a lot of great things for the greater Hazleton area, and he is my guest. Many of you probably read about him in the various newspapers in northeastern Pennsylvania, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to talk to Apache for many reasons. Talk about a person who started in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Brooklyn, and then how he succeeded to become who he is, and how about profiling, folks? If you'll take a look at this person, on the newspaper here, you'd look at him and say, wow, this guy's got to be involved with drugs. He's got to be a bum. He's got to be, all these things that we profile people on. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Apache, first of all, thanks for coming on the show.
No, thank you for having me, Sam.
It's very nice of you to come on, and your bodyguard, Craig, is a fun guy, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to mess with that guy. You know?
Yeah, he's a pussy guy.
Yeah, and your lovely your partner, Paula. So we
Yeah.
appreciate you coming to the
Yeah.
studios. Hey, listen, let's talk about you. Okay, you were born in Brooklyn. Okay,
Yes.
now why do you say it was one of the toughest neighborhoods?
Well, growing in Brooklyn, when I went back to my reunion a couple of years ago, half the guys were in prison, and the other half, like 80% dead. And we grew up around drugs. They didn't expect us to graduate. The teachers didn't even want to go to school to teach us because they were afraid of us,
Is that an environment that you're born into, and then you just can't escape it because the young people see their friends or their siblings who are either got shot doing drugs or end up in prison, etc. And yet some of them follow in the same footsteps. I mean, is it the environment? That's question number one. Number two is, how did you escape that?
Well, I mean, it becomes like a cycle. If people expect you to do wrong, you'll do wrong. I mean, I have an uncle that he was shot 22 times by the New York City Police Department, but that's his lifestyle. That's what he was into. He was into that life. They shot him 22 times. When we buried him, we still saw bullet holes in his body. And that's what I grew up around with, But there's a choice. You have a choice. Because I had a choice. I could have followed that. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. But if you look at me, people say, oh, drug dealer. Because I have a nice house. I have a few nice cars. And people assume that that's what you do. But you have a choice. You can really choose not to do the wrong thing.
How did you escape that, though, when growing up in Brooklyn?
My father used to be a musician.
Okay.
My father, he had a record out in the 80s, and I still have to this day his 45. Most people don't know what records are. I know
what that 45 is.
Oh, 45, I have it on my wall, so I grew up around the business.
What was the name of the record?
It was called Dos Rosas.
Okay.
And a song called Mana. He wrote a song called Mana. Mana means my grandmother. Like mommy. His grandmother was Mana. And he wrote a song for her that I actually remade years later, in honor of my dad. And he gave me piano lessons when I was a kid. He tried to keep me off the streets. And when he first came to this country, he couldn't even speak English.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I have 2 brothers and a younger sister.
And how are they doing?
My younger brother, he graduated at NYU Film School. He's a producer. He's a set dresser. He's worked on Spider-Man 2, the last Batman movie, Men in Black, the last one that came out. Right now, he's on Spider-Man 2 actually right now. And my brother before him, my other brother, he's also in the business, and I think he's working on the Ninja Turtles movie. So and my little sister, she's going to be a doctor. Yeah.
See, and the interesting thing is, I was born and raised in Pardisville, a little patch town, outside of Hazleton. And, you grow up with your friends, and, I'm Italian.
Yes.
A lot of Polish, Slovak people, which I love dearly. They were just, we're all family, and we all respected each other's. One night I'm eating pierogies, one night they're having spaghetti, one night I'm maluski. But we grew up together appreciating who we were all about. And we never locked our homes. Never locked our homes, the doors. But when coming from Brooklyn, and as we're going through our society today, with a lot of people just making general, accusations, because of the way you look, how did you make the transition? Okay, from you started as a musician, and your father. Tell me a little bit about your dad, because he was a major influence in your life, wasn't he?
Yeah, my father was. My father, when he first moved here back in, when he first came here, he didn't speak English, so he started
When he
working.
came here in Hazleton or here in the United States?
He came to New York.
New York. Okay.
He came to New York,
And where did he come from?
He came from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
He came from the Dominican Republic to New York.
Right.
Right. He couldn't speak English. So he started working at a restaurant. And he was washing trays and making deliveries. About maybe a year or two in, they gave him more responsibilities. The owner trusted him. So then the owner realized that my father was the only one that would make it in time, because it was a family business. So the owner saw that my father was the only one that would come on time, and he used to have to wait outside. So the owner said, I'm gonna give you the key since you're always early and my family members don't show up on time. So he started taking care of that. Then he became the assistant manager. And my father ended up owning that restaurant that he worked at, not even speaking English. And he ended up owning 4 restaurants.
Your father?
My father. 20 years later, he ended up owning 4 of those same restaurants. It was Blimpies. Right. He ended up owning 4 Blimpies in New York City. Mm-hmm. On 55th and 5th, 39th and 5th Avenue, he ran 4 businesses. And that was someone that didn't speak English. So he had a choice. He could have started dealing drugs, because everybody says, people that are Dominican and Puerto Rican, that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But it's not everyone. But you know how the news likes to glorify the bad and not really the good. Mm-hmm. And he was an influence, and he kept me off the streets.
When you did you go to school in Brooklyn?
Yes, I did.
And then you went to college?
Yes, I did.
Which college did you go to?
FSU.
How important do you think it is, Apache, for parents or guardians with family values in today's world? How important do you think that is?
Well, I think it's very important. I think that, families should be involved, but there are a lot of broken families. But mothers they've become the fathers and the mothers to these kids. Mm-hmm. And, if you don't have a strong family, I was speaking to my girlfriend, right? Paula. She happens to be a master's degree therapist. And we were talking about genetically driven behavioral patterns. Basically, that people that are born with these patterns, they grow up and they follow those patterns.
Yeah, exactly.
But you have a choice whether or not you want to follow those patterns or not. Some kids that are born with alcoholic parents, it's genetically, they might grow up to be alcoholics themselves. But at the end of the day, you have a choice. My father raised me as best as he could. And at the end of the day, when I was old enough to make my own choices, I made a choice. So, kids also need to man up to their own choices. They do. Because I don't think parents are out there hoping, I hope that my daughter ends up on the pole. I hope that my son is out there dealing drugs and robbing people. I don't believe that any parent would want that for their kid. Children have to, man up and say, you know what, I have a choice to make. I can choose to follow everybody else, or I can choose to do the right thing.
Now, growing up where you grew up, when we come back after the break, you grew up in an area that they were doing drugs,
yes.
They were selling drugs.
Yes.
And you said a little while ago that you do not drug, do not do drugs, you do not do alcohol.
Not
okay?
at all.
And that's a very difficult task for a person who is surrounded by from there. Then you went into the screen. You became involved with acting.
Yeah.
Okay, which is another what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And now from that you're currently doing. We'll talk about some of the movies you were in.
Yeah.
And what lessons do you want to give to those young people out there and people who are living in northeastern Pennsylvania? Who do profile,
yes.
Because they look at you, and you were telling me stories about you cleaning your house, and someone said, if you don't keep this up and talk to the owner, well, you are the owner of the home, and that's where profiling comes in, okay? Folks, I'm talking to Apache Prinze, a person who came in from toughest neighborhood in Brooklyn, and is making a success of himself. That means you could do it too. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, folks. Remember, 24/7 SSPTV.com. Welcome to all our new viewers outside of Harrisburg, going all the way up into Binghamton, New York. for those cable companies that are running our shows. We appreciate it very much. For those of you who are, would like to know a little bit more about everything we do here at SSP TV, I highly recommend going to our website at ssptv.com and look at our shows. The girls, now up to 100 and some thousand people a week watching them. Our local news, up to 90,000 people a day, Monday through Friday, watching Local News 13 all around the towns, folks. We have 10,000 to 15,000 households watching all around the towns every day and all the areas that we're on. We certainly appreciate that. My email is sam@ssptv.com. Now, I'm talking to Apache Prinze. Was born in Brooklyn, New York, and one of the toughest neighborhoods, came here in the greater Hazleton area and has... You went into acting. Now, yes. When you graduated from which college you say you went
FSU.
to? Okay. How'd you get involved with acting and the people? Because you work with Samuel Jackson, Jeffrey Wright, Vanessa Williams. I mean, these are some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
What happened when you graduated? When did it start?
Well, I graduated because I had promised my mom that I would get a degree, but I never really used it. My passion was always singing and acting.
What was the degree in?
Law.
Law?
Yeah, criminal justice.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
I have a bachelor's in criminal justice that I don't use.
Okay. Well, sometimes you never waste an education, but so tell me about your story then.
I was doing shows and performing. I did a video, and in that video I met an agent that she said, I like the way you work, you're real professional. Would you like to do this part? So I went to...
Just like that?
Yeah, she asked me if I wanted to do a part in the film, just background. It wasn't really anything big, it was just background work. And I was working there, they were paying $50, well, $35 at the time for like 12 hours work. And I went, and they kept using me back and forth. And then the director came in and said, I need something for something specific. And at the time, to get into Screen Actors Guild, either you have to have a talking role. To get a talking role, you need to be in the guild, Screen Actors Guild. But to get into Screen Actors Guild, you need a talking role. Okay. So it's like a catch-22.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So I'm with Alex Cruz, and he came out in Stargate and everything else, and we have a scene together, and the director walks over to me, and he was Jesus Trevino. He did a couple of Star Trek episodes also. He says, Apache, you need to be more forceful. He took money from you. Say something, talk to him. So he gave me lines, and at the time I didn't realize because I was there all day. From 6 o'clock in the morning was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm shaking Alex, and we're going back and forth, and I'm talking, I'm giving lines.
Prepared lines or ad-libbing lines?
Ad-libbing.
Okay.
So we're going back and forth, and then luckily the SAG rep was there, and she walks over to me and says, how much were you getting paid today? And I go, I was getting paid $35. And he goes, you just made $800 for the day. I'm like, what? $800? She goes, yes, welcome to SAG.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wow. And after that was in SAG, I went on Shaft with Samuel Jackson.
Now, how'd you get that?
Another agent, they kept giving me parts, and because I look like a drug dealer. What
there
people believe.
See, there's the profiling again.
That's the profiling. What people believe a drug dealer is, I guess that's the image but that's not who I am.
Yeah, okay.
And my mother's always like, how come you always get in drug dealer roles?
Yeah.
Why do you always get those bad roles?
Yeah.
Like, Mom, I'm never gonna be a doctor. You look at me, you don't see a doctor.
Yeah.
You see what people think is a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And Samuel Jackson, he was like, Samuel Jackson he used to get a lot of those parts too. He used to be a crackhead in a lot of movies and bad parts.
Well, what movies were you on what movie with Samuel Jackson?
Oh, Shaft.
Okay.
I worked on Shaft with Samuel Jackson. He kills me. He actually kills me. We get into a shootout on the street. I'm one of...
you look pretty good for a dead guy,
Yeah, that's what he told me. It's funny, we were on Freedom Land together.
Uh-huh.
And when I saw him again, and he goes, didn't I kill you? I was like, yes. I said, good guys don't stay dead.
That's right.
Yeah, Samuel's a real nice guy. He is.
Now, I've had my share of interviewing a lot of great actors, working with Jack Palance. But what lessons did you learn from these actors that have been around for a long time? Because there's always another story.
Yeah.
There's always that story, that personal. As we're talking to you today, people profile you not knowing who you are, but once knowing who Apache Prinze is, saying, he's really a down-to-earth person, and he means well for our communities.
Yeah. I mean, I stay humble.
Excuse me?
I stay humble.
Okay.
Humble. Because Samuel always told me, when I spoke to him a few times, I'm friends with John Leguizamo. We speak every Father's Day. I call him for his kids and Christmas and stuff. And, I go to a temple, And I try to stay humble. I try to stay, grounded, because people, at the end of the day, we're all just people.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. And then, the church will probably get mad at me for saying this.
What should you say now? You're just looking at a Catholic here.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to have to hurt you on this show.
If you look at a speck on this desk,
Yeah.
that's our universe.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Our solar system is maybe one speck on this desk.
Yeah.
This whole table is the universe.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little naive to believe that there's no other intelligent life.
Yeah.
And what would happen if one of those species came here?
Well, it's interesting you should say that.
You know?
Father Ryan, who is the president of King's College,
Yeah.
and Jack Ryan and I are very good friends. He's a great person. And he's doing a great job at King's College, but he's also a priest.
Yeah.
And I had to give a speech on something to a Catholic organization, and it was around Easter time. And I said, and I had lunch with him. I said, Father, I need you to help me. He said, how it's very difficult in our society as advanced we become. We say, how does God know everything?
Yeah.
How does He know everything He's supposed to know? Every hair on our head and every leaf. I mean, it's you can't even imagine it. He says, Sammy, the only way I could explain that to you is think of this. And you're talking about a speck. He said, think about two ants that are on the sidewalk. What do they know about nuclear science? And how can we take a cell phone, and there's 100,000 people in the audience, or in the audience, and I could call one person and pick it out. Well, that's where your belief in God comes. So when you're talking about a speck, and you're talking about the universe, see, it's a good perspective. It brings you. What keeps you on the straight and narrow? Because you've been around a lot of things that happen. What keeps you straight?
I guess I always want my parents to be proud of me. My father did a lot for me, and I would never want to have my father look at me and be ashamed.
Is he still living today?
Yes, he is.
Okay, and
both
your
my
mom?
parents are together.
You're
They're
very
still
fortunate.
alive. They're been married like 45, 50, almost 50 years now.
Okay.
And I just want to. At the end of the day, I want to do the right thing. Paul is always telling me that I have this sense of black and white, right or wrong. And I'm like that. I'm like that. I try to help everyone. She says, you're too nice. You help everyone. And everybody's, who's helping you?
She related to my wife?
Maybe they are.
Does she tell? Well, my wife and I are the same. Not that I'm not trying to say we're saints, but the point is you try to help. And it's very, we want people to forgive us, but we won't forget people.
Yes.
It's amazing. If you, it's just, and so you learned by seeing a lot. Now, have you been able to speak to young people, or have you been able to go out in high schools or to send your message?
Yeah, a lot of people, they complain.
Yeah.
But stop complaining and do something.
Oh,
I was an AIDS counselor. I would go to high schools and I would teach about AIDS. And I also went to prisons. I went to prisons and spoke to guys at prison. And at prison, I ran into one of my friends that I went to high school with. And I'm there talking to the prisoners, and one of my friends from high school is looking at me, and I'm looking at him like, wow, dude, you took that route. That's where you went. But you have a choice. It's a choice. You have a choice. People, oh, I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. Everybody has a choice. Either you choose to go left or you choose to go right. You have a choice.
Well, you experienced something. There's a lot of Hispanic people in northeastern central Pennsylvania. And why did you decide to come, when we come after the break, I want to know why you decided to come to the greater Hazleton area. And for those of you watching all over, it's the same story. And then you also had an interesting experience when you came to Hazleton, as profiling. We'll talk a little bit about that. Then, without releasing a lot of information, you are working on a project that I think will be a tremendous asset to not only the greater Hazleton area, but all of northeastern Pennsylvania. Folks, I'm talking to Apache Prinze. As you can see, folks, you can never judge a book by their cover, and it's an interesting thing. And for that person who sent me that email, the Hazleton person who sent me a email and said, hey, do you and your family ever walk down Wyoming Street or Church Street at night? The answer is yes. My friend, the answer is yes. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Okay, how many of us in the northeastern Pennsylvania profile people, the way they look? My guest is Apache Prinze. He's an actor. He's a musician, doing very well for himself. And there's a lot of shows, movies he's been on. When you first came from Brooklyn into the greater Hazleton area, what kind of experience did you have?
Wow. Well, when I first bought the house, I was in the backyard cleaning, and I guess I was making noise. So the neighbor, she looks out the window and she goes, if you keep that up, I'm going to tell the owner not to hire you again. And I was like, I am the owner. It's my house. And she didn't say anything else to me.
Yeah.
I mean, she just thought that I was like the pool guy. I was cleaning up my pool, cleaning the backyard, and she assumed that that's who I was. Yeah.
And then you had an unfortunate incident where someone accused you of thinking you were a real bad person.
Yeah. Unfortunately, someone was raped and killed about 2 years ago. And I guess I fit the profile. You know, Hispanic, the guy happened to have my name out of all things, and he drove a white car like I drove a white car. So the police showed up at my house, they arrested me, they held me for 4 hours. And I was basically sitting there, you have the wrong guy, but they just kept drilling me, thinking that they had the right person. And I was like, I was just amazed that, you know, I guess you just picked up a Spanish guy, just a lot of Spanish guys have the same name, and they just picked me up.
What do you say to people who like I said, you know, look, there's bad in every nationality.
Yes.
I mean, you know, you have it with the Italians, you have it with Polish, Irish, you have it.
Yeah.
We're not happy about that. I'm not happy about the mob. I'm not happy about the fact that my grandfather came over here and trying to make a better life for himself, couldn't speak English, was thrown out of a bank, was thrown out of a bank because and the president of the bank comes out and says, you get out of here, you learn English, and why don't you go back where you came from?
Yeah.
Well, my grandfather at that age I saw my grandfather crying because he didn't mean to hurt anybody, he was trying to learn.
Yeah.
What do you say to people, you know, that profile?
Yeah, I mean, we're all immigrants at the end of the day. We all came here from somewhere else, you know, and we're one race. We're a human race. You know, like I was saying the story about the table in the universe.
Yeah.
If another race of beings comes to this planet, we're all going to be one human race to, you know, maybe fight against another race, another being.
Yeah.
We're all one race. At the end, we all bleed red. We're all human. I mean, that makes no sense.
You have some plans that you've already met with city officials and police and the authorities. Without divulging what those plans are, what is it that you think do you think you could really do something big for this area?
Yeah. Well, what I have planned, it's a huge project that it has changed other cities where these things have been, you know, where they've done this. I can't say too much.
Is it a good thing?
It's a real good thing.
It's not going to bring it won't bring any bad people here. It won't be you know, something that's going to, you know.
You know, basically, I can say this much. I'm in the movie business.
Yeah.
And it's going to attract a lot of my friends in the movie business.
Okay.
You know, a lot of the people that I do business
What are
with.
you working on now?
You know,
In the movie business. So in other words, you're working on something that's going to be really great for the greater Hazleton as well as northeastern Pennsylvania. Well, I know you can't say anymore because there's a lot of things you're working on.
Yeah.
But what movies are you working on now?
Well, I just finished working on Carrie Diaries. I was doing production on that on Carrie Diaries as a Warner Brothers show. You know, we just finished that. And my brother's working on Spider-Man 2, like I said before. I'm trying to get on Spider-Man 2, the second Spider-Man. And I just finished doing a movie with Jason Bateman and Alexander Skarsgård. That's being released April 19th in the theaters.
And what is it?
It's called Disconnect.
Oh, yeah?
It's about how people are connected to electronics and the devices that this man hacks into their accounts and wipes them out.
Oh, yeah?
You know.
And what part do you play?
I play the pool guy. I'm Jason Bateman's
So
pool
that
boy.
lady was right. Your neighbor is right. You played a pool guy.
I was cleaning
Now,
her
who do you
pool.
kill? Who do you? What are you
You know, so, you know.
Was it a lot of fun doing the movie?
Yeah, Jason Bateman's a great guy.
Yeah.
You know, he was really nice. He met my daughter, and he was really nice to her and stuff. And Alexander Skarsgård, one thing he did tell me that he does True Blood. He's Eric in True Blood, and he did say that, you know what, anybody ever comes to me and asks me for an autograph, if they ask me, I'm gonna take the time out to give it to them because because of my fans, I'm where I'm at.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because there's a lot of people that, you know, don't like to give autographs. Some of them, you know, I know, as you saw, the people I've interviewed, Jack Palance did not like to give autographs. And I used to argue with him all the time. But one time I remember we were doing a show and up in the Gene Autry Museum, and we were just finished. We rented the museum from 7 o'clock to 12 to do the skits we had to do. 12 o'clock they start opening up, but Jack hated to give autographs, but it was a great person.
Yeah.
This is a classic thing. A family comes up, a husband and wife and 3 kids, and we're in the mezzanine, and they're walking towards Jack, and Jack's, oh, here we go, I got to give him an autograph, blah, blah. I said, shut up, will you? So, but the person stopped about 20 feet away from Jack and said, Mr. Palance, I don't want your autograph.
Wow.
But what I want to do is thank you for the many years of entertainment you have provided for me and my family.
Wow.
And then Jack says, hey, come here. So the
Yeah,
point was,
yeah.
there are a lot of people that,
Yeah.
you know, are appreciative. I know
Yeah.
I'm appreciative of
Yeah.
anybody who comes up to me and says,
Yeah.
Sammy, I like your show, or
Yeah.
you could do this, or you suck, or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm always
yeah.
appreciative of
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
okay? Because they really make you.
Yeah,
they make
they
you
do.
your.
They do.
Hey, Apache, I wish you the best. And I really do. It was a pleasure meeting you and,
Yeah.
and Craig and Paula. I really
Yeah.
wish you the best. Please, when you become a superstar, not that you're a superstar now, come back on the Sam Lesante show, okay?
I'll always come back.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Good
you
luck
so
to you.
much,
It's my
Sam. I
pleasure.
appreciate you having me.
Folks,
Thank
Apache
you.
Prinze, he's an actor, he's a musician, came up the hard way, but doesn't do drugs, doesn't do alcohol, and he's working for the betterment of not only Hazleton, but also the community. So before you profile anybody, folks, learn about them, okay? We'll see you next time.